Hello and welcome to Morning Brew. It is Tuesday the 11th of April 2023. How are you all doing? I've moved from the bunker. I'm in a new location, somewhere hidden secretly in the north of England. I'm in Liverpool. How you doing? How you doing, everyone? Got those people on the chat. Let's have a look who is in the chat. We've got Vendetta. We've got Paul Evans there. We've also got David, Lefty Boater. We've got Plum Duff. We've got Liam North. We've got Jacob. And then people are just talking amongst themselves. Morning, everybody. Good morning. Hope you're having a spectacular morning. A better morning than the BBC Breakfast Today, which I was watching to try and think about what we're going to talk about today. But the only thing they were talking about is retired BBC journalist Rory Cellan-Jones, privately educated, of course. He's got a dog. Yeah, 10-minute segment. 10-minute segment. He's got a dog. He's got a rescue dog. No one does that. That's just crazy. Big news. So what else is happening today? President Biden is visiting Northern Ireland and Ireland. He's dropping into Northern Ireland, but it still counts. Still counts. He's dropping into Northern Ireland today, and he will be the fourth. No, I was going to say he was going to be the fourth president in a row after Clinton, Bush, and Obama to go and visit Northern Ireland. I missed the president's house. He's the fourth president of the modern age to go and visit Northern Ireland. Invested, as America is, in the ongoing peace agreement in Northern Ireland, which ensures that people aren't being murdered horribly in Northern Ireland by different rebel groups. And that's good. It's the 25th anniversary this weekend of the Good Friday Agreement. So President Biden is in Northern Ireland to commemorate that. The big thing that's happening today is that doctors are going on strike. Young doctors specifically are going on strike. They're asking for a 35% pay rise, which you might think is a bit much, but I think it's only the same as politicians have had over the last few years. And also, some of them only earn like £14 an hour. Yeah, they could get more as a sandwich artist at Subway. Not great at all. Check your polling card, peeps. My name had been removed. Oh my God, that's from Plum Duff. Another thing that we should probably talk about today is the fact that the Tories are absolutely doing a number on the democracy that we hold dear. I know it's not great. I know it's not perfect. First past the post, whatever, but now they're trying to stop people voting. Yes, voter suppression, which has proven very unsuccessful across the United States, where every time they've tried to suppress the vote, it's just resulted in more people going out and voting the other way, as seen in the 2020 election. But they have to have an election where they get away with it first, like in the 2016 election in America. So this time we have got local elections coming up on the 4th of May. And the government has done very little to tell people that you need ID to make sure that you are really who you say you are, because of all the problems with people voting illegally in the United Kingdom, pretending to be someone that they're not. A problem that doesn't exist. A problem that is so minuscule, it defies the laws of logic that they could possibly use this as an excuse. It's not logical. It's just that, well, it is logical if you want to stop people from voting, and they've made it so that if you go and vote and you're over the age of 60, there's a damn good chance that you have the ID that you're allowed to have, like an over 60s Oyster card, in your wallet or purse or handbag or in your pocket. Whereas if you're young and it's the first time you're voting, there's a very good chance that you won't have the ID that you require on you at the time, because it's got to be a passport or a driver's license, or you've got to apply for a government-issued ID, which you have to do before the 25th of April. Yeah, so a young person's Oyster card is not allowed. An old person's Oyster card is allowed. A young person's Oyster card is not acceptable as a valid form of ID. One step beyond this is the fact that if you go to the bank and say, hey, I want to open a bank account, and they say you've got the ID, you can use an expired passport. You can use an expired driving license to form part of your ID. Whether that is allowed in by the officers in the polling stations is yet to be seen. And we could see a situation in which a Tory-leaning, supposedly independent officer at the polls sees a young person come in with an out-of-date passport and says, sorry, we're not accepting out-of-date passports. And then an old person comes in with an out-of-date passport and they say, oh, it's okay, you can vote because you're old, and therefore you are substantially more likely to vote for the Tory sewage party. Because I guess you get to a certain age that you think, do you know what our nation's watercourses need? More sewage, more effluent, more slurry. Yeah, as much slurry as possible from the Tory sewage party. Great. Good stuff. Yawn, says Vendetta. What platform are you on? Says Oscar Shop. I'm on Facebook, obviously. You've just written a thing to me saying what platform I am. I'm also on YouTube as well, and on Twitter and on Twitch. And I'm trying to worm my way into TikTok, but I haven't quite achieved that one yet. I might have to have next to this camera another camera, which is 9x16 and telling me and going out on TikTok. I might do that. I don't know. Have a great day, peeps. Got to go. Plumber lined up. Oh, cool. Oscar's moved over to YouTube. Thank you very much for joining us, Oscar, over here on the Labour Social YouTube channel. Yes, today we're talking about what's in the news. We have these shows every morning at 9:30, and later this week I'm hoping that we will have a guest presenter. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not the only person who's going to be doing this, and it's very exciting. So I don't want to say yet in case there's a problem and they can't do it, but if the guest presenter goes ahead, I'm sure there'll be much more erudite and knowledgeable than I in doing this, but we'll see how it goes. I'll still be here producing things behind the scenes. It's not like I can have a long lie-in. Right, so the rest of the news is going on about, obviously, this big strike. I mean, it is catastrophic for people who are waiting on operations. You've got over 300,000 operations that might be affected by this. This is not just the operations that should be taking place this week, but obviously there's a knock-on effect because those operations have to be moved, and more urgent operations will have to be still moved to a closer slot, meaning that optional surgery and things that, can you wait a bit longer, get pushed back. And as we have some record waiting times as is because of 13 years of the Tory sewage party being in power, when you vote Tory, you're voting for sewage. So that's not great. And the thing is, and the thing we have to remember, and the thing we have to bear in mind is the government can stop this strike immediately. They can stop it today. They can stop it in the next hour, and those doctors will go back to work. All they have to do is say, right, we're willing to concede X, Y, Z. Let's get back into negotiations. But the government won't, because they want this. They want people to suffer. They want you to suffer. You British, you live here. You maybe you've come from another country, you live here. All right. They want you to suffer. Because suffering makes more people vote right wing, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe they don't care. Or maybe this is all part of their dastardly plot, which they made quite clear about 10 years ago when they wrote, when a bunch of top Tories are now in charge, wrote a pamphlet on basically how to privatise the NHS. And one of the things they mentioned was the fact that they were going to run it down. Run it down. That's the expression that I think they used. Maybe I'm paraphrasing. Run it down to a point where people are like, well, maybe we should pay for our, going to see the doctor. I mean, a lot of people go to see the doctor. They don't even need to, which is ridiculous because a lot of men literally die because they don't go to see a doctor soon enough. So claiming that too many people are going to see the doctor and people should have to pay for that is, yeah. And I've lived in Australia and I've been to America, and I know what it's like when something horrible happens and, someone says, don't call an ambulance. I haven't got insurance. I don't want that situation in the UK. Yeah, now we already pay for our prescription drugs. If you are in England, you don't have to pay for it in Wales or in Scotland. Yeah, thanks for that, Parliament. But yeah, apparently England, we can't afford to be giving people who desperately need medicine the medicine that they need for free, like what it should be. So I've got friends who suffer from chronic illnesses. They need to get repeat prescriptions every month, and they have to pay for those repeat prescriptions every time. And sometimes they make it so you have to pay each. You can't just lump them all together and say, that's one prescription, because it's for different things. So they're spending £30, maybe £40 a month on repeat prescriptions, which I don't think should happen. I don't think it should work that way, but it seems to for some people that I know who have chronic illnesses that impact their everyday life. It's quite expensive to get ill in the UK. One of the bits of advice that's come out today is don't get ill. I think that's just, that just sums up the NHS for the last God knows how long. Well, no, I'll tell you how long. 13 years. Because 13 years ago, the NHS was voted the best healthcare system in the world. The best in the world. The best for value of money, the best for service, the best for everything. The best health service in the world was the NHS 13 years ago. 13 years of the Tory sewage party. Oh, my word. Yeah. And Steve Barclay, Brexit hardman Steve Barclay's been out saying, these strikes are time to maximise disruption. That's Steve Barclay, who was one of the leaders of the ERG, which pulled us out of Europe, which left our country billions of pounds in the red, billions of pounds poorer. But it's okay. We're gonna scrape back 0.808% of our GDP over the next 10 years by being part of a group on the other side of the world, which includes Burma, because we're going to sell lots of Scotch whiskey to Burma. Yeah. Genius. Oh, by the way, there's some breaking news that Tony Danker, who's the leader of the CBI, the business group, the CBI, has been he's been sacked over misconduct claims. There's been a rash of spate. I don't know what the word is, but basically a lot of misconduct has been going on. A lot of sexual misconduct been going on in the CBI, which is uncovered this week. And the top guy has gone, so he's out of here. Can we get an EU passport? I don't think so. What EU rights? Stop being interesting, Graham, says Oscar. Okay, I'll try. What's Oscar's... What are you doing up, mate? Are you back in the UK? I thought you were in LA. Please become dull by the time I brush my teeth. Is it me? Says Andrew AB. AB, aren't you on your honeymoon? What is Oscar and AB doing on this stream? Guys, you have better things to do. But welcome. Thank you for spending a little bit of your morning with me. Thank you. Esprit, I don't know. That probably wasn't the best word to use. I thought it was 0.04%, says Duke Vengeance. Probably. Over 10 years. It's the equivalent of everyone in the UK getting £20 over the next 10 years. Yeah. Maybe you'll get like a boiled sweet out your nan's pocket that's covered in dust. Yeah, maybe one of them is pocket fluff. This is like Neil Kinnock's. I warn you not to be ordinary. I warn you not to be young. I warn you not to be old. I warn you not to get ill in coming to fruition. Yeah. This is a speech that Neil Kinnock made back when he was Labour leader in the late 80s and early 90s, when he did say, basically under the Tories, things are going to get progressively worse, which they did until 1997, when Labour came in and made things progressively better until 2010. And then things got progressively worse again. I know it didn't make everything better. They could have done a lot more public transport. They talked to me about Iraq and obviously the global credit crunch. We could have weathered that a lot better had we not gone for the whole deregulation thing along with the United States, which are like, hey, let's deregulate everything. That'll work really well because people aren't greedy. It's really fascinating that if you think about communism, I know it's a bit of a tangent here, but communism, right, and capitalism, they're so similar in a way. It's like unbridled capitalism and unbridled communism both suffer from the same problem. They don't appreciate basic human psychology, right? A lot of people are greedy. They're greedy. So in a complete capital system in which the market regulates everything, the greediest people will do the best. And they will get away with everything they can get away with because they're greedy. Yeah? And this is why communism falls apart, because it doesn't take into account the fact that people are greedy. They're like, doctor could earn the same as someone who sweeps the streets, yeah. Because, it's the value of the job. It's like, no, I'm a doctor. I would like a bit more money, please, because otherwise I'd just sweep the streets because I'm getting literally the same money. I'm not being particularly greedy. I just think, there should be a little bit of a hierarchy there. And I certainly think that doctors should be paid at least as much as our MPs. Yeah, as doctors can't really have a second job because they're working every hour that God sends. Squire, review the figures. Thanks, David. So we've got quite a few people in the chat today, which is good. We've got Darren Christian saying, if you've got friends paying a lot for meds, advise them a prepaid cert for just £10 a month. Darren, I think there was something about that, about getting all of your prescriptions at there is a way of doing it, and I had to get prescriptions for 2 different problems last year, and I remember paying 20 quid for it, and I was just like, but can't I just get them as one prescription? Like, no, because if it was like you were getting you've broken your arm and you had like 2 things that were for your arm, that could be one prescription, but because you've got like something for your broken arm and one for your broken foot, they're 2 separate prescriptions. It's like, what? For instance, I didn't break my foot last year. Indeed, I did not. They've changed. What's this? This is Liam. They've just changed Liverpool from 30 areas to 66 areas. Apparently, got a leaflet the other day. That's random. What, has 500,000 people come back to Liverpool? We lost 500,000 people in Liverpool, I know it's very careless to lose 500,000 people, but there was a huge Scouse diaspora in the 70s and 80s because there wasn't much in the way of work in Liverpool. And contrary to the the stereotype nonsense about Scousers not having a job. Most Scousers chose to leave Liverpool and go and get a job somewhere. And that's why, if you travel the world, there's always Scousers. You'll always run into Scousers in the weirdest of places, but you will run into Scousers. Other things in the news today, apparently free vapes are going to be handed out to people who smoke. Because 2 out of 3 smokers are killed by smoking. There's a little bit of social Darwinism in this, I know, but I've also got dear friends who smoke or smoked in the past, so I can't be too harsh about it. I know it's ridiculously addictive, and there's been a lot of money spent on making you think that smoking was cool and something that you really had to do as a teenager in order to be seen as an adult and a grown-up. And what does a child want more than anything in the world? Sweets. But second to sweets, to be treated as a grown-up. And they think, oh, well, I'll have a cigarette, and that'll make people think I'm a grown-up or something. Also peer group pressure and all kinds of other stuff. But these evil companies, these tobacco companies that kill 6 million people a year... 6 million people around the world every year die from smoking-related diseases. And they're going in really hard in places like Indonesia, in which you'll walk around Indonesia and you'll see a lot of children smoking, which is kind of really disturbing. And also going really hard into West Africa, where they're currently suing governments of West Africa. Yeah, they really are. They're suing governments of West Africa for putting health warnings on cigarette packets. Be careful what trade agreements you sign up to, my friends, because when you get sued by private companies from the other side of the world because their government, they believe that your government's done something that is detrimental to their profits, and that money that you have to spend on the court case, or however it's worked out in the WTO or wherever you have the forum to work it out, all that expense and then the money that you have to pay as compensation comes from the taxpayer. Yeah, watch out for that. Private companies, great. Apparently, the IMF is saying that interest rates are going to fall significantly, which in a way is good news, and in a way it's kind of obvious because surely it can't keep going up and up and up, but who knows. And more people entertain at home, apparently, as living costs rise. Okay, that's not very interesting. And also, I need to mention that in America, there was another mass shooting yesterday. It's not even on the front page of the BBC website. I mean, seriously, this is how often this is happening. It was, guess what gun it was? Yeah, it was an AR-15, of course. Now, most hunters don't use AR-15s in America because they don't leave much left of whatever you're trying to shoot. If you're trying to shoot something so you can eat venison or whatever you want to do, eat bear for dinner, a bear steak, they don't leave much of the bear if you shoot it with an AR-15. Yeah. Anyway, so assault rifles were illegal in America up until about 2002, I think, or maybe 2004. And then the Republicans made them legal again because it had a sunset clause. So it says if you don't vote on this again, it sunsets, which means it's not illegal anymore. And pretty much every single mass shooting since has involved an AR-15, a semi-automatic, which means that if you put your finger down on the trigger, it keeps firing bullets. Just straight off firing bullets, and they're a lot more devastatingly accurate than an AK-47. If you ever wondered why in movies people don't shoot straight with an an AK-47, is because they have an incredible amount of kickback. They are also semi-automatic. You can shoot them once by pressing the trigger once, or you can hold the trigger down and shoot loads of them at once. But when you do that, the gun goes up, so you're constantly trying to pull it back down because the recoil makes the gun want to go up into the air. There was once a story about, I think there was some people in an Israeli cinema or something, or a theatre, and they shot their guns into the air and then the ceiling collapsed. Don't do that, especially not in an inside space. Oh, was it outside and then the bullets came down? Because you shoot in the air, you see people shooting in the air, those bullets come down and it's like hot metal. It's like hot metal raining from the sky at terminal velocity. Yeah, not the best of ideas. But anyway, there's been another mass shooting in America, and an employee went nuts and killed 6 people, I think. Oh, God, it's like every day. It's like every day. And I could do an entire show about American gun law and gun policy. And I wrote I've told you this before, I wrote my final year dissertation at university on American gun policy. And even back then in the year 2000, let's all meet up in the year 2000 and talk about gun policy. I concluded that nothing was going to change. In fact, I think I predicted it was probably going to get worse because guns are so embedded in American culture. It would be like trying to take tea away from British people. and nobody wants that. But at least he doesn't really go on a mass shooting every day. What else have we got in our comments here? Just out of interest, how much does alcohol-related illnesses and crime cost? A lot. Yeah, and there is a huge argument for curtailing the amount of alcohol that people can consume. But at the same time, if someone is having a drink on the other side of a room to me, it's not affecting my health unless they actually come over and commit a crime and assault me or something. But if they're on a table nearby and they're having a pint and I don't drink and I don't want to drink, I don't have to partake in that pint. They don't come over, put the pint in their mouth and then spit it in my face. That's what happens with smoke. If someone's smoking, I have to inhale that smoke. And as someone who used to work in a bar for 4 years, I mean, like before the smoking ban came in the UK, I can tell you it is effing horrible. If you're a non-smoker and you're breathing that stuff in, it's toxic air. I mean, it's toxic gas. If that was down a coal mine, the canary will be dead and everyone will be running out to fresh air because they'll be like, oh my God, there's toxicity down there. It's not just that it's got carcinogens in which cause cancer. It's also got radioactive elements in. And one of the most radioactive places on Earth is a dead smoker's lungs. That's incredible. Like it's on a par with the room in which the firefighters threw their clothes after fighting the fire in Chernobyl. You know the one that made them melt? Yeah, with radiation poisoning. You know, there's a room where they put their stuff. Yeah, the radiation readings in that room is about the same as the radiation readings of a dead smoker's lungs. So, yeah, that's my problem with it more than anything else, is the fact that it affects me and people around me, children and everyone else. And the other thing is, while I'm here, is dog ends. I absolutely hate cigarette butts. Someone was complaining, I remember on Facebook a while ago, about them getting an £80 fine for throwing a cigarette butt on the ground in Liverpool. And I was just like, suffer in your jocks. Everyone else is like, oh my God, that's terrible. It was only a cigarette butt. And I'm like, ha 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 ha, I would have doubled it. Yeah, I think they blocked me. Anyway, the point being that the amount of plastic in the ocean right now is like off the charts, right? We have these huge, is it called a Gaia? Is it in the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, the Indian Ocean? We have these whirlpools, these swelling vortices, and the size of Texas. And it's just all plastic. And that's the stuff that's floating. Obviously, the stuff that isn't floating, that goes down to the bottom of the ocean as well. There's plastic everywhere. And the biggest amount of stuff by volume from one source is from fishing. Fishing tackle, fishing nets, all that kind of stuff. Fishing tackle? No, fishing nets, fishing equipment, which is dumped into the sea. The second by weight, right, so by volume, is cigarette butts. Now, you have to imagine the billions, perhaps trillions of cigarette butts that are just thrown into the gutter. They go into the streams, they go into the rivers, they go out into the water, and they don't degrade. It's plastic. It's the end of your cigarette, the filter bit, it's plastic, and it's forever plastic. And yeah, it's a huge problem in our rivers and streams. And think about little baby turtles, getting off the beach. Yes, I managed not to get eaten by a bird on the beach on the way to the water. And then they go, oh, look, there's a little fish there. I think I'll eat that. And it's not a little fish, it's a cigarette butt. And they die. Anyway, right, I've gone on about that a bit too much. I'm going back to the coffin, says Duke Vengeance. My friendly neighbourhood vampire there. They had a meltdown after Brexit. Brexit. Oh, I'm not supposed to swear on this. You can't take RT. You must drink RT. Don't even think about taking RT. I spoke to some NRA people when I went to the USA. This is number 3. They wanted to protect their families and were ready to shoot me when I pointed out that guns in society meant more deaths. Yeah. Owning a gun makes you 7 times more likely to be killed with a gun. Yeah, because most people who die in one of those situations, it's a domestic incident. Yeah. And yeah, it's pretty grim. And also there's no protections against children. Children in America are now not going to be allowed to go to drag shows because that's terrible. So I'm guessing pantomime's going to be banned because pantomime is woke and they have men dressed as women. So pantomime, this is old British tradition, is going to be banned in this country for being woke. And yeah, in America, they're protecting children from drag queens who have killed no children, and they're not protecting them from guns, which kill 2 busloads of children every week in America. Nice. And in fact, in America, the number of deaths by guns has now exceeded the number of deaths from automobiles. So when I was studying in university, you could argue, well, guns don't kill as many people as cars do. And it's like, well, yeah, but cars have a function other than killing people. Whereas guns, it's pretty much, let's make something that is alive, not. Yeah, that's the whole point of guns. They are literally automated killing machines. Yeah, and devastatingly effective at doing that. But the other rules that I've mentioned before, but I'll just go through them. So if a gun malfunctions in America, if it's a toy gun, you can take the manufacturers to court for any injuries you might have sustained. If it's a real gun, you can't. You can't sue the manufacturers of a real gun if it malfunctions. If they have manufactured it incorrectly and it blows up in your face and kills you, your family can't then go and sue the gun manufacturers. Also, the ownership of guns can't be catalogued on a computer. Can't be computerized, can't be indexed. It has to be put on a little piece of paper, which is then sent off to a warehouse in Virginia or West Virginia. I always get the two mixed up. And sorry to anyone who remembers the Civil War. And yeah, basically it's in this massive warehouse, and they've got these shelves full of little chitties of paper from all over the country, from gun shows and gun shops, and they're supposed to have the registration with the number of the gun. Now, there is technology that could come in that could really, really help the situation. So this isn't necessarily taking people's guns off them, although I would ban assault weapons. But let's say we keep handguns, which I don't think they should, but let's say they keep the handguns. That when I take my phone in my hand, basically if I turn that off, I can put my thumb against it like this, and it'll turn back on, right? That's standard with phones now, right? Because it reads my thumbprint. There's no reason why that tech can't be put into a gun, so the only person who can use the gun is the person who owns the gun. That would stop a lot of people getting shot by their own children, someone stealing their gun and using that gun against them, etc., etc. And also, that means the gun is registered to you, so if it's used in a crime, it's a lot easier to trace who you are. But obviously, they're not going to do that because that's far too sensible. Honestly, the amount of power the American National Rifle Association, which is just the lobbying arm of the weapons manufacturers in America, is off the chart. And my heart goes out not to America, because they vote for this, they vote for it. My heart goes out to Central America, where you have a lot of drugs coming up from South America, and you have all these guns coming down from North America, and they're trapped in the middle, stuck in the middle with you. And that's why there's so much gun violence and deaths on the streets of El Salvador and Honduras and Mexico. Right, I'm going to get off in a minute. I agree with Ted Lasso on T. Excellent. David Faulkner, Super Chat. Thank you very much, David. Super Chat coming all the way from Hong Kong. In the Philippines over the New Year, everyone kept firing off their armor lights up into the air when drinking alcohol. It's pretty scary. Wow, yeah. So I traveled with a lot of Filipino people when I was on my travels around the world, because a lot of people who work on the cargo ships around the world are from the Philippines. And I remember one guy telling me that the Philippines would have been great if it wasn't for the goddamn colonizers. And he said, we had the worst of the bunch. We had the Spanish, which brought Catholicism, and then we had the Americans that brought guns. Thanks for that. I was like, I can't argue. I can't argue with that. Now go watch Role Models. The States are just an unpredictable war zone. Guns into Canada too. Yeah, I'm no gun advocate. This is from Wes. But my phone gives problems with the thumb reader. I'm not sure I want to rely on my thumb. Just the right moisture level when I needed it. Not that I'd get a gun. No, but I mean, I'd rather have a gun that didn't work than one that did and murdered someone. And the idea, this thing that go, we need more guns, that'll stop all this death. I'm just like, what the hell? Like, I mean, just who even entertains that? It's almost amusing in a kind of sick, distinctly dystopian way. It's like, yeah, we should give the teachers guns. That'll work. And you're just like, what's going through these people's heads? Oh, the only thing that can stop a bad person with a gun is a good person with a gun. And you're like, well, there's a melee, and there's like people running around, and there's 3 people with guns, and you turn up as a police officer. How are you going to know which is the good person with the gun and who's the bad person with the gun? They all look the same. They're just people with guns. So you're like, why would you get your gun out in that sort of situation and risk getting shot by law enforcement yourself? Also, the amount of risk that the police in America take. just doing everyday traffic stops. They might get shot. They might get anything they do. They might get shot. And it's like, stop a bulletproof vest if you're lucky and you get shot in the bit of you that's wearing the bulletproof vest. And even so, you can still die with a bulletproof vest on because it is like being punched with an iron fist. So yeah, there's a good chance you can still die even if you're wearing a bulletproof vest, even if the bullet hits the bulletproof vest. But they allow armor-piercing bullets in America. Just what? How is there no law? Anyway. Oh, the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. And other people go, you can't change the Constitution. It's called an amendment, mate. It's literally the amendment. Oh, forget it. Anyway, right, I'm going to let you go because it is past 10 o'clock. Thank you so much for joining me here in sunny Liverpool. It's looking really nice today. I think there's a storm coming in later, but let's enjoy it while we can, eh? We've also got, we're saying, oh yeah, I think the gun laws in some US states are crazy and just quite bad in the rest, indeed. Probably more likely to get shot by a copper, says Vendetta. Well, a few years ago, the Guardian newspaper did a thing called The Countered, in which they went through local news reports and found out how many people have been shot by the police, because that is information that the FBI does not have to collate for some reason. It's just voluntary whether different police organizations actually give that information to the FBI. They don't have to if they don't want to. So the FBI numbers were very low in terms of how many people were dying in police custody, being shot by the police. So the Guardian and I think like Washington Post or one of the American newspapers, they got together and they started collating all of these news stories from around America, and they found that 1,138 people were killed by the police in 1 year, which was twice the number of people killed by murderers in the United Kingdom in the same year. Twice as many as killed by murderers. And I know that America has 5 times the population of the United Kingdom. They have 330 million people, and we only have 66 million over here. But even so, that's just people not being killed by murderers, but just being killed by the police. Oh my God. Wow. So I'm not heading over to America anytime soon. No offense, America, but you don't want me anyway. I can't even get an Esther these days. I've got an Esther ban, like in the mysterious Lost Cities of Gold. Some older viewers will get that joke. Okay, right. Probably more likely to get shot by COVID. Lovely stream, Graham. Marvellous hat, sweetie. Thank you. Thank you very much, David. And on that note, I'll say adieu to you and everybody else watching. And a big thank you to all of my wonderful Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support this channel on Patreon, the link is in the description. It is patreon.com/Labour Social. Really easy to remember. We're trying to get this thing off the ground and working with other social media influencers and commentators from around the country and further afield to try and get this to be a big thing, okay? And I'm going to put all my heart and soul and effort into it. And if you could help me along a little bit, I would love you forever. Okay, so until next time, I'll say hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.